All right, Packers offense going up against the 49ers defense. Should be some interesting stuff. Getting to see Aaron Rodgers again. We only have seen him for half of a football game for 2 weeks. We'll get to see him again. Always fun to see him play. But first, I should mention, this is actually a two-part series, and I've already uploaded the first one. You don't have to watch that first one to watch this one if you don't want to, but I previewed the other side of the ball, the 49ers offense against the Packers defense. If you want to check that out, you can, or I'll give you my prediction at the end regardless of this one. But let's get into it. And the first thing I want to do is talk about just the matchup itself. So first, we're going to use this chart. This is the where each group matched up in terms of the PFF grades. So basically, for the 49ers, you look at the top right corner, they finished 16th in terms of PFF grades in total coverage. So that's what this chart is showing. And just showing different kind of categories to see how the Packers offense matches up against the Niners defense. One interesting thing, of course, is that Aaron Rodgers currently has the 8th best PFF grade. I know Packers fans will not be happy about that. One thing worth mentioning, his PFF grade is actually, I believe, like 4th overall, but there was a Jordan Love game in there, so that brought it down a little. And I would also say, I think you can make an argument that, like, over the course of a 17-game season, other guys have played better. I would also say that the past, 8 games of the season or so, I think Rodgers has clearly been the best quarterback in football. So, again, he's really, 1 here, but he's 8 on the stat sheet. Receiving core has been amazing, 4th best according to PFF, and pass blocking has been very good at 8th best. 49ers do rush the passer well, although one thing we have to mention with both of these two things is Fred Warner, great coverage linebacker, a great linebacker in general. He is, we don't know his status. We don't know Nick Bosa's status, so that could hurt the pass rush. So those are two things that kind of the issue with making this video this early is I don't know yet, but I think we can still preview it without that knowledge yet of it, if those two guys will be playing. But also, going towards the bottom section here, Packers run the ball really effectively. I mean, there's no denying that. A.J. Dillon has been fantastic this season, and he wasn't the starter in the first game these two teams played. However, their run blocking has not been as spectacular, so that's worth noting. 49ers do stop the run very well on top of this, though, so all that stuff worth talking about. These numbers are very interesting. I want to talk about this. Aaron Rodgers has a passer rating of 123.7 when he's kept clean. That's best in football. Aaron Rodgers has a 67.9 passer rating when he's under pressure. That's 21st best in football. And the San Francisco 49ers are 20th in pressure percentage. So they don't get a ton of pressure. Worth mentioning, they don't blitz a ton, so that's a big part of why that is. That also kind of explains to some degree why you do see that, they're have a great PFF grade in terms of pass rush, but maybe not necessarily the results to show for it. But I'm really bringing this up just to kind of say, kind of the way to beat Aaron Rodgers, which is the way to beat a lot of teams, is get a lot of pressure. Might not necessarily be the case. Another way to beat Aaron Rodgers this season, there's not many ways to beat him, but at least to slow him down, have been to blitz him. This isn't a team that blitzes a ton, as I mentioned, so kind of a good matchup already for Green Bay. Let's now go over here. So what we're looking at here, this is every Green Bay Packers offensive player's PFF grade from the first time these two teams played each other. Listen, I get it was week 3, but you know what? We can still learn a lot from seeing teams that, if teams have played each other before, we can learn a lot from rewatching that game. I really think so. As long as we, don't only pay attention to that, pay attention to the whole data that we have in front of us. You see right here, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, the usual suspects sitting there at 1 and 2, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling there at number 3, and even A.J. Dillon at number 4. That's notable given he'll probably get more carries now as he's been awesome since getting the starting role. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, amazingly, Josh Norman was their number 1 graded player here. And then you saw some defensive linemen, Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa are the next 2 that checks out. I don't really have a ton else to add. Nothing's like that jumping out at me. I guess maybe Fred Warner at number 14. So he didn't have a spectacular game the first time these two teams played each other. So maybe it's not as big of a drop-off as you might think if he doesn't play. That's potentially true. Although, again, you could also argue, hey, it's hard to beat a middle linebacker going up against a LaFleur defense, so, the replacement also probably isn't going to have a great day. One last chart before we finally get into the film study. I know you guys want to watch film, but, this stuff is important, too, to talk about. And what's going to happen, what you see on the screen is Aaron Rodgers, really good numbers. Not like, okay, out of this world numbers, but really good numbers. 22 for 33, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. The rushing game, interestingly enough, A.J. Dillon had less yards per carry than Aaron Jones, but PFF said he was a better runner in that one, so might just be luck that happened there. And into receiving, I mean, only really 3 guys had significant impacts in terms of wide receivers. Davante Adams had a huge impact. Valdez-Scantling, a couple of nice catches, and Allen Lazard, one 42-yard catch. So, all right, let's start off with something like this. Let's finally get into the film. And I think one of the real interesting things about this game is going to be one player in particular. The way this play works is it's going to be quarters coverage. You have Marquez Valdez-Scantling running a deep route who's going to start off on the left side of the field, but eventually get over to the right side of the field. So for a safety, typically you pick this up. The safety who's closer to the top of the screen, he'll pick it up and he'll stay deep. And then maybe you can hit Davante Adams over the middle. The issue is that Davante Adams just takes extra attention. You hear people talk about gravity a lot. Gravity is when defenders just naturally come towards the offense's best player. Watch that happen here, where you see Davante Adams and watch how guys just move in. I mean, I'm circling that safety who's supposed to be deep, who should be picking up Marquez Valdez-Scantling here and trusting his teammates can pick up Davante Adams. That's what his role is, but you're paying extra attention to Adams because he's freaking Davante Adams. He's amazing. You have to pay extra attention to him, but this look can get you in trouble. Rodgers makes it look easy when he throws the ball just effortlessly, 45 yards down the field, and Valdez-Scantling picks up a big gain. So stuff like that can happen, and you got to be careful against this Packers team. They're not a team that you can make mistakes against. When you make mistakes, 99% of the time, they're going to come back to bite you, so you do have to be careful. Although, as I say that, I now have an example of a mistake that didn't come back to bite them, but I still want to bring this up because it's interesting, because while on one hand, they, on that play, they spent too much time focusing on Adams, I felt at other points in the game, they weren't taking enough attention towards Adams. I mean, the way this play works is, again, it's quarters coverage. You have a receiver running a curl route, and you also have Davante Adams running a deeper route towards the sideline. The curl route, the receiver who's closest towards the bottom of the screen, that's Aaron Jones. Okay, so there's 2 eligible receivers to Rodgers' right. One is a halfback. The other is maybe the best wide receiver in football. Who do you want to pay more attention to? However, right when this play begins, I mean, San Francisco ends up having multiple guys on Aaron Jones here, and only the safety can pick up Adams, and he's kind of far away. Rodgers is going to throw this one high. I couldn't tell if that was a miscommunication, or maybe I'm just making excuses for Rodgers and he just overthrew it. But given the fact that, he's usually very accurate, I'm going to lean on it was probably a miscommunication. Thought that, Adams did kind of slow up a little bit. But nevertheless, these are the mistakes that you don't want to make if you're San Francisco. Like, okay, listen, yes, every now and then Green Bay will bail you out and make a mistake of their own, but not too frequently, so you gotta be careful. And I actually thought that this play was really fascinating to me. I think that this is, okay, not just this play in general, but what we kind of saw in the second half, we saw a bit of Kyle Shanahan and this 49ers defense kind of saying, like, hey, let's get a little bit creative here. They got away from their 2 safety deep looks, started playing a lot of cover 3 here, which seems like a mistake because Davante Adams is running a go route. And when he's running a go route, you now have a great receiver that this whole offense kind of runs around to some degree in a one-on-one matchup deep down the field where you can get a big chunk play. But there is actually a legitimate argument to make that this can make some sense. Watch how right when this play begins, you see Aaron Rodgers is going to go back, and he's not even thinking about it. He's throwing the ball to Adams. He says, hey, Davante, one-on-one, I'm giving you the ball, which makes sense. However, when Rodgers makes this throw, I mean, there really isn't any separation whatsoever. The one way you can argue that you can maybe beat Davante Adams, and he thought there should have been a flag there, but my point still stands. The one way that you can kind of beat Adams is he's not the fastest receiver. Now, he does everything else so incredible, but his 40 time was, he didn't even break 4.5 with his 40 time, which again, it's not a atrociously bad 40 time, but it's not great. And typically, who cares? Because, I mean, you're going up against Davante Adams, who can, best route runner in football. He's so shifty. It seems like he can be at a full speed and then stop on an instant and go full speed the other way immediately. He can do all this incredible stuff, but kind of the one way you might actually be comfortable playing against him is in a foot race. And then even stuff like this will happen, where what's going to happen on this play is it's man coverage, but a single safety deep coverage. And so again, you kind of feel like, okay, well, we got to throw to our best receiver on a go route here, right? That's what we should do. And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying like this is the hole in Adams's game, but there's other routes he does better, and you're kind of almost forcing Green Bay to not do those routes. Watch how right when this play begins, you see Adams is still relatively open. Like, he did do a pretty good job here because he's Davante Adams. Like, the routes he's bad at, he's amazing at. Like, there's no denying that. However, you look towards the top of the screen, maybe a better matchup up there is wide open. However, Rodgers throws it to Adams kind of because he felt like he had to, and there was a pass interference there, which was a dumb play because I don't think Adams was making that play. Also, again, a bit of a communication thing where Rodgers threw it towards the outside. Adams thought it should go towards the inside. I'm with Rodgers. I thought it should have gone to the outside, but still, this is the logic behind it. I'm not saying I love it, but I'm just saying this is why you can make the argument. However, like I said, I'm not saying I love it, and the reason why I don't love this strategy, even though 49ers did have some success with it, is because this results in you leaving you literally are saying that our game plan is make Davante Adams beat us, which, okay, that's not a great game plan. Something like this. That's where Davante Adams is on the screen, and watch what happens. Immediately, Davante Adams is going to get the corner to turn his back. Rodgers throws back shoulder. You pick up a first down right there on a 3rd down and short. Just that simple. This one as well is another one where, again, it's going to be that one-on-one matchup, and watch what you see. Rodgers is going to take the snap, and he's just going to throw it up where only Adams can get it, and he's, able to make that catch. So, okay, listen, is that the route that Adams is the best at? No, but it's also the most rewarding route. You can get the most yards doing it. So I just don't think that's a great game plan. I think that there's logic behind it. I get the logic behind it. And if you had a great corner, I think maybe you could argue that would make some sense. But I just don't know who San Francisco puts there with Adams. And the reality is, like I showed, other guys were getting open. So I don't think you have the talent to double team Adams and then other guys are going to get open. You can make that stuff happen. The only thing I can maybe think of is maybe you just go simply with you double team Adams on basically every play. But that would also be a completely different coverage than I've seen from San Francisco. So will they do it? I don't know. All right, final prediction time. I know that was very Davante Adams focused, but I think that for a good reason. I think that he's makes a huge difference in this football game, and he made a huge difference the first time these two teams played. And you actually really saw a clear difference when there was I think only 1 or 2 snaps when Adams was out with an injury. But they looked like completely lost without him. Like, he's a big part of their offense. Anyways, what you see in the predictions is the first time these two teams played, the Packers scored 30 points on 10 possessions. That's 3.0 points per possession. Very high. Green Bay scores a very good 2.7 points per drive on the year. San Francisco gives up 2.1 points per drive on the year. My prediction, I think Green Bay does it again. I think the Packers score 3.0 points per drive on 11 drives. That's 33 points. I think that the running game should be fine. I don't think that they'll win or lose the game with the running game, quite frankly. And I actually think, in fact, that might be one way San Francisco wins is if Green Bay feels like they have to do this underneath stuff, all these screen passes, these running plays, just throw the football. They had guys really open for most of this game. Just to push the ball down the field a lot, and you'll have success. My final score prediction is the 49ers 25, Green Bay 33. Listen, can San Francisco win? Sure, but I don't think they're going to really shut down the Packers offense too much. Maybe they can shut it down a little bit more than I'm expecting it to, but I just don't know what they do. Maybe they run the ball a lot, limit possessions, and get a turnover and win that way, but it seems unlikely. I do think the 49ers win. I think people believe this is a much closer matchup than it actually is, given seasons past and given the way that the first game played out. But I think if you watch that game, Green Bay was clearly the better team in that game as well. So give me the Green Bay Packers to win by 8 points. But yeah, that's what I think. Do you disagree? Am I not giving San Francisco enough credit? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.